I am your host, Edward L. Fairley, accompanied by my wonderful, lovely co-host, Michelle Larkin. Michelle, say hi to the people.
Hey, world. Welcome to No Love for the Week.
All right. Our custom routine is to check on each other. What you got going on? How have you been?
I've been stressed at work, but I am leaving tomorrow to go visit my grandbaby in Florida, and I can care less about work right now. I'm done. Wow. I did what I did. I'm preparing for a Queen's Moves workshop on the 19th.
Really? Where's that going to be at?
It's going to be in Baltimore. We have two professionals that are in transition that we're going to have some life coaching with, some clarity sessions and some visioning, and getting them prepared to make their next best move.
You said Baltimore?
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a sign up or location where people can sign up and come or anything like that?
You can visit on queensmoves.com or on my yumi-connections.com. There's a sign up on the Queens Moves tab for other things that's coming down the pike, the schedule or whatever. If you're interested in being a part of Queens Moves, I do a web series, a web class, which I'm going to do in November. In preparation for the new year, I'm going to do a web class. So anybody that would like to virtually participate in Queens Moves, I'm going to launch that. But I'll probably have a little bit more details about that later and give more details with the date. But I've been asked to do it, so I think I'm going to try and see who comes.
You said queensmove.com?
Mm-hmm.
That's Queens plural, right?
Queens plural, moves plural. Queens plural, moves plural.
Perfect. Excellent. What else you got going on?
Following Eddie around, trying to figure out how this app is doing. Trying to see how these games are moving. Trying to see how this is impacting lives. We had a great conversation about how people are sharing. I noticed that we get over 200 views pretty regularly, which means people have, even if they're not commenting, they're sharing. I think we talked about how you get feedback about how valuable the exchanges are. So that is a blessing. It is a gift to be a part of such a fascinating thing. And I think we are really privileged to be able to see the benefit of being so transparent with our own situation. So yeah, how are things going with the game, with No Love, with what's going on? Anything new I missed?
Everything's honestly is great. This is a very, very interesting niche. It's not really one which is why I created the simulator, i.e. the board game, because yeah, you just stated we get consistently a minimal of 150 viewers a week on this platform, and clearly it's not 150 different people, but we only get maybe 5 to 7 people who are commenting. So this is not one of those things that people are going to share or type or comment on, because in their eyes, in this IG/Facebook day and age, you don't want to imply that you might be struggling or need help with something. And I get it, which again is why we created the self-counseling concept of the game. So I get it and I respect it. It makes it kind of difficult though for me to serve you all if I don't know what you all want me to talk about, because you're trying to save face. So I listen to indirect conversations, and I also pull from the clients that I have personal what it is that I feel the need to discuss on the following weeks. But I would love you all to let me know what things you would like for me to see, I say or speak to or go more in depth on. And I utilize the comments that are here to kind of gauge that as well, because clearly if people are asking questions about what it is from a topic standpoint that we're discussing, it's definitely something that I probably need to go into a little more depth on the following show. Speaking of that, I've been getting a lot of people that have been actually just asking to use the actual No Love prototypes that we currently have. And with that, it's making it apparent that we really need to produce and move the actual unit. So I'm looking to actually purchase or get 250 to start with, but they'll probably be like $199 just because I'm doing such a small volume of it. And what I'll do is only through the No Love viewers, if you all are interested in it, we'll probably do pre-orders at $135 for the actual self-counseling simulation. And we'll do the pre-orders, and for like the first one, since we're doing such a small amount, I'll do 100 at the 135. Then the rest will have to be at 199 to cover cost and shipping and all of that. So if you all are interested in the No Love simulation from a physical standpoint, because clearly the simulation from an app standpoint is so that no one has an excuse not to use it. But some people just like that tangible experience, which
in the group environment, having had the experience, there is something very valuable about being in a room with friends or family and going through the experience and sparking conversation and getting going with thought. It's totally worth having a group of family, friends, couples over and just working through it.
It is definitely, and I have to tell the people that I send it to, because I had one guy who I'm sending it to in Washington State on the West Coast, and he was like, "Well, we've been listening to the podcast, and we want to do a No Love game night." I'm like, "That's cool, but you need to change the name of it from game night, because I can assure you, when people think
15 minutes in,
Jenga, just fun things, and when they pull out, I see it countless times. Even when I'm doing counseling, when they pull out the game and they see the colors and the moving pieces and the die and the dice, when they have to roll 2, they see, and I can see their little legs swinging. Oh, we're about to engage, and then that first landing space is read out loud, or that first card is read, and it get like the whole, like you will suck fun out of the whole atmosphere because it's so introspective. Like, oh my gosh, that hit me. Yeah, so I made sure that he understood that he needs to not call it game night. Find a different way to set the tone to help them understand that this is just going to be a lot of self-reflecting and in your face, like stuff that you have to deal with and kind of chew on and possibly even leave thinking about, because it's definitely a mirror that will be put in your face as you have the experience. So if you are interested in being one of the first persons for the pre-order, when we do finally do the launch, so that you'll have yours first, inbox me. You can go or email me at knowloveinc@gmail.com, knowloveinc@gmail.com. We'll be doing that. Of course, we're working on the iOS version of the No Love app. And then, of course, the Android version is still up. So I'm still looking for feedback. And we're really working out. I've heard there's been trouble with trying to get people to be able to play with you, like invite somebody on Facebook. So I have my programmers and developers working on that. And I'll keep you all updated on when that's finished. As of now,
it means your feedback matters. All of your feedback matters.
Oh yeah, good, bad, or indifferent. Most certainly, it only helps make it more useful and relevant and even valuable to you as a user. So that's what's going on with No Love. Let's get into this topic. I don't feel that it's going to be long, but I say that a lot, and we end up going in because I can't really gauge what it is that you all are interested in.
And he starts going.
This topic is so necessary because people don't realize that they're ruining their chances of having experiences that they want to have. So let me go ahead and help you understand what I mean by that, by sharing what the topic is. The topic is called How to Be Selflessly Selfish. How to be selflessly selfish. There's a lot of frustrated folk out here that even if they're selfless, you still want to do things that you want to do, and you would prefer to do it with your partner. And they're not presenting it in a manner that they can have these experiences with their partner. And we're going to define why that is, and hopefully help you to get your partner to participate in things that you would like for them to participate in. Now, clearly, it's not going to work all the time, but I can guarantee you that it's going to give you a much better chance of getting them to do it than what you've been doing in the past. So first, let's discuss why it's people are having this struggle. And honestly, I'll start by saying this. Even selfless people have a hard time getting their partner to do things for them that they want. And typically it's because of the same reasons a selfish person can't get what they want from other people. And the reason why selfish people typically can't get people to do what they want is because it's apparent that they don't have the other person in mind when it comes to what they're asking for them to do. Now, the reason why that is typically the reason why a selfless person has that same experience is because just being a person in general, you typically are going to default to the radio program WIIFM, which is what's in it for me. So by default, you typically, just from your experiences alone, you think that what you enjoy, other people are going to enjoy. So when you present it to the other people, you present it in the manner in which you would enjoy it. Now, the crazy thing about this is the fact that if I go, matter of fact, when I go and I do speaking engagements, I typically start with how many people in here agree that opposites attract? And everybody raises their hand. Ooh, me, I agree. And my follow-up response or question is, then why is it that you all get upset with your mate for doing the opposite as you, or thinking the opposite as you, or responding the opposite as you? So we look to our mates who we feel are our opposite to do or respond or look at things the same way that we respond. Yet, when we present things that we want for them to do, we ask them to do it and share the benefits that we think are beneficial with them. And Michelle, I know you're not a statue, so there's something wrong with your with your internet, because your face staying the same way the whole time. You have not budged, so you might want to reset your your computer or something, because I'm not seeing it. Says my sheep should know. Great topic. Yeah, we're about to go in on this. So again, people by default, they typically keep their radio station on WIIFM. That's what's in it for me. So when they ask for something, they present their reasons for liking it and how it will benefit them, which is typically the reason for their opposite partner to not like what they're trying to get them to do or like. There's a lot of things that me and my wife do together, but the reasons for us liking them are not the same. So if I present to my wife something new that I want to do, and I discuss what I would like about it, more than likely I'm probably turning her off, and she's not going to want to do it. We're going to wait for Michelle to come back. While we're waiting on Michelle.
I'm back.
You there?
I'm here. You have to turn my camera on because you're the host.
Oh, well, I'm going to make you the host because...
No, I think you can can you turn me on from your...
Remove, make host. Nope, make you the host real quick. You can put your camera on and share with me because I have no idea what in the world to do.
You silly. You silly. I'm back.
Silly, but I got you back.
You did. I'm gonna make you the host again. You back.
Got it. So yeah, as I was stating earlier, reason why people that are selfish typically don't get what they want, they might get it in the beginning, and typically it's because it's aligning with what the person wanted to do in the first place. But after a while, it's like you aren't thinking about me at all. Like what? How in the world did you even come up with that? So even if you're a selfish individual, this show won't help you, and I'll tell you why. Because when you're selfish, you won't take the time to understand or grasp the thought processes of the other person to even allow for what I'm about to teach you to work. But before we go there, what you got? What's your thoughts on just the topic?
I just had this conversation earlier today, where I had a coworker share with me that they like to see things reciprocated. They like to function in relationships where everything is reciprocated. And I said, I'm not sure if you really. I think is that coming from an insecure place because you really want. She's like, if I give out this much energy, I want the person to give this much energy back. And I was like, are you sure you want the energy back, or you just want a receipt that what you gave out was received? I was like, because you just want to check the box. Same thing, like, right? So when you're asking your mate or somebody else to do something, do you want them to just say yes, or do you want them to want to do it? Like that, there's two different motives there. Do you just want the body to be there and present, or do you want them to be there?
Yeah.
But to your point, you have to sit in the other person's. You know what is hard for a selfish person to do? And I'll even go with a novice person to do, is to see anything from somebody else's perspective. Anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like I have to sit in someone else's shoes. What? I don't even know what that looks like.
Exactly. Most certainly. So that's why I'm like, at first I was like, I don't know if I want to share this. It kind of seems like
this is the secret to episode 2 weeks ago where you were talking about, I never have a problem with my children. They always say yes. I never have a problem with my wife. She always says yes. Like this is the how behind making that work.
Well, actually, that show was the how. The how in that was just being the servant.
Yes, 100% being the servant. But being the servant also means knowing what the other person needs.
It makes them want to serve you, period. Like, you've been serving them all that time. It's like, yo, like, who wouldn't do that for dad? He always does. Like, they just want to because they've seen the like, I don't even know what to call it. It just, you are a mirror of what it is that you want, which is probably the best point that you could take away from this, because this is how you learn from the other person, whether they share or not. Typically, the way that people treat you, which is why this is a problem with people, is how they want to be treated just by default, because they actually think that this is the way people want to be loved or treated. So if he or she is always writing you different notes or IMs, that's because that's what they want you to do for them. So take note, and then you could tell them, I really don't like this.
Don't do that. I don't do that. Oh my gosh.
I really don't like
caveat this real quick because this is so funny. It's so true. I know I need attention and I am super sentimental, but on my surface, I'm very like, I don't care. Like my whole body's like, I don't care. But I am also the person that will text you every 5 minutes, like, hi, how you doing? So the person that I'm seeing is like, what do we do? Did you think I was gonna send you something back? Like,
yeah.
And at first I was like, are you rejecting me? And he was like, no, that's not how I do it. And I was like,
we miss it. We miss it. We get so caught up in I don't like it that we miss that that's what they like. Mm-hmm. And it's like you just missed an opportunity to take a note on how to treat or at least present to that particular person. Mm-hmm. And that's because we tend to get so selfish or bogged down in what it is that we like. And we assume
I had to learn to give because that's what I like to do. Like you said, I'm showing you, I like to do this. So I'm not expecting you to do it back. I'm doing it because it makes me feel good. And I know that you appreciate it, but I'm not expecting your affection to be shown by mirroring. Like it doesn't have to be exactly the way I'm doing it. I have to learn to, like what we're talking about. I had to learn to sit in the other person's shoes and go like, well, how are they seeing it? How are there other ways they're expressing themselves that I may be missing because it's not how I do it?
Yeah.
It's really an adventure.
Well, I mean, you're at a good space in that regard because even I don't do stuff to show you how I want to be treated just because I know what it is that I'm teaching. I typically do stuff because it's fulfilling, and I just do things in life that are fulfilling to me, not to try to help you out. I love to teach. I love to serve. And that in turn serves me and it allows for me to learn. You learn best when you're teaching, to be perfectly honest with you.
You better.
So, and if you can't teach it, you haven't learned it anyway. Susie says, love this. Maybe if you were, if you ever do how a particular race is raised to treat their men, that might be a good conversation. Thank you, Susie. I will actually do a show on that because that's true. But in the grand scheme of things, that basically is, it's the same as like you just learning in your household what the norm is or what love is and duplicating it in your respective relationships, which is why an abusive a child that's raised in an abusive relationship more than likely will do that in their respective relationship, or in different cultures. If the woman is always serving, that's typically what the person's going to find, or it's trained to be that way. It's kind of like even that, like that's why I laugh about the whole, woman is supposed to do this and the man is supposed to do this type setup, because it's coming from a generation when women had no rights or they could not get jobs based off of the way that the environment and things were set up. So they were taught that, and they by default ended up doing that. It wasn't what a woman was necessarily supposed to do. It was what a woman had to do.
With the instructions they were under here going, I can only do A, B, and C. That's not like branded in my body somewhere.
Exactly. So if that's what you're taught and that's what you're accustomed to, you that's what you're. I don't even want to say you're gift.
Part of the environmental forces on us is our culture, our environment, our traditions, our legacy. All of that contributes to what we believe about ourselves.
Most certainly. So I will definitely, I appreciate that, Susie. I'm going to make sure that I do have a show that discusses culture and things of that nature, because oftentimes when stuff like that happens, it's an offensive thing. I've seen people that got like fired from their jobs just from them doing something naturally that's cultural to someone else, and it came off as offensive because they did not understand that culture, and that was considered overstepping a boundary and yielded a person being fired. It's unfortunate, but when we get so caught up in our own cultures, we miss out on opportunities for a connection with another culture or another person, which prevents us from being effective communicators. And that's why if we grasp this thing called love, when people respond to us, we don't start at a hateful place. We start with how could they be doing this from a loving place, which in turn allows us to learn about them, and then move outwardly to where, well, hold on, that just was malice. But if you start from a loving place, you have an opportunity to make a connection, and then you can find out through that receptiveness that there is a connection or there really isn't. So back to this topic. Well, it all kind of coincides with one another, because in our minds, we typically, again, by default, think that our expressions of love or what we feel is love or what we like or dislike, because it's so magnified in our minds, it's what other people feel. So when we present it with that same passion based off of how we like or dislike certain things, when in actuality, instead of getting that person to buy in, we're actually causing them to buy out. So yeah. So I see you writing, Michelle. What are your thoughts so far?
You circle. I want to get to what you really mean, but I want you to help me with selfishly. How to be selflessly selfish, and selfless is a huge part of the triangle. So I wanted to.
Selfless is the second portion of the triangle. Self-interest is the beginning portion of the triangle, foundation. Whereas we discussed last week, you get your morals, values, standards, principles from, because you have dated yourself, you understand yourself in a manner that you love yourself, no matter if someone's added to you from a partner standpoint or not. You already start at love. You start at enough, which allows for you to be choicey when you make a decision as to who you're going to add to your relationship, which in turn allows for you to patiently wait for the right one, because you will not take anything less than the right partner for yourself. But after you transition from your self-interest phase, that's how you get the mate or the right mate for you. You have chosen a partner that is deemed valuable enough for you to be selfless towards. And then what I mean by that is
time out. Repeat,
Go ahead.
comma. You have found a partner that is what?
Worthy of you being
Enough
selfless
of
towards.
me. That is a
Worthy.
#9.
Worthy of being selfless, because what you have done is you've chosen someone who aligns with your moral standards and values. So after you have decided that this person is the right one, and we've already discussed in the beginning that this person typically is going to be the opposite of you, now it's time for me to say, okay, this person is the opposite of me. I've mastered being a student of myself to know that it is you that I want to be with, and to know that you love me because I presented myself in a manner that you could only love me because I did not alter myself, because I do love myself and I presented my true self, and I know that you have chosen me in this regard. So now, and this is why a lot of people go from dating to relationship and then they fail at getting to marriage, because now that you have found someone who loves you, your job is to help them realize that you how do I put it? You would go from finding someone who loved you to someone that you have shown you know how to love them. So you go from someone choosing you because they love who you are, but now you have shown them that you can accurately or adequately love them the way that they prefer to be loved, which aligns with, in my book, it's called It's Not That They Don't Love You, Y'all Just Don't Love Alike. So this is where you are taking your time to shift from being a student of self, which you should have mastered by this time anyway, to being a student of the person in which you have chosen. Because if your opposites attract, you're not really familiar with the opposing side because you've gotten so familiar with your side. So now you have to learn what it is that he or she likes. Now, the way that you do that is people by default, again, typically treat you the way that they want to be treated. So you take notes on how they want to be treated. Because you know yourself, you correct them on how they're treating you. And clearly, we're not talking about a malice. I'm hoping you have not advanced with someone who's treating you malice, but you've moved forward with someone who clearly loves you, and now you're transitioning to a place where you're trying to be a student of them so that you can adequately provide them with what it is that they need or want to feel loved. Now, typically that's going to be the opposite of you, but when they present to you and you correct them, that's typically a sign that they're showing you how they want you to treat them. I've given the example of my wife. When we first got married, when she would get sick, when I would get sick, I don't like for anyone to bother me. I quarantine myself. I make my own soup, juice, and I take my own medication or what have you. And I do not like to be bothered. I go and I wrap myself really, really tight till I'm extremely hot, and I sweat it out, and it takes me about 24 to 48 hours to get myself right. In that time, I'm resting and I'm in solitude. My wife would come in when I finally got sleep or whatever, wake me up. Hey, babe, you okay? And I'm like, I was, until you woke me up. Why are you touching me? Why are you bothering me? Hey, do you need something? You want some soup? If I wanted some soup, I would have gotten up and gotten some soup. Why would you wake up someone and ask them if they're okay when they were fast asleep? In my mind, I'm like, this is the rudest person I've ever met in my life. How are you? You are so inconsiderate. Why would you bother me while I'm sleeping and trying to get rest or get well? And then on the flip side, because I am not inconsiderate, when my wife would get sick, I would say, hey, I'm leaving her alone. I'm going to let her rest so she can get well. And she would think I'm the most rudest person and inconsiderate person in the world because I never came in to check on her. And when I'm sick, she even send the kids, go check on your dad. Now the kids coming in and waking me up and bothering me because they're doing what mommy told. Mommy said to come and check on you. You need some juice, you need some soup, you need some whatever. And I'm like, no, I need some peace and quiet and some rest and the ability to sweat out my cold. Why y'all bother? Y'all gonna get sick. Why y'all even in this room? This is my thought. Why would you want to be around a sick person? This is what our logic is. So that's why I'm staying away from you, because if we're both sick, we both can't be sick and then take care of it anyway. It just doesn't make sense. Leave me alone. But when she would get sick, I would say, stay out of that room. Let your mama get some rest. And my wife is feeling like no one loves her. No one cares. Why? Because we projected how we wanted to be treated on one another, when in actuality, we were really ruining each other's lives. And it took for us to realize, like, again, it's not that I don't love you. We just don't love alike. And when we realized that, we started altering our approach towards one another, which helped us to appreciate each other. And this is basically what it is that we're going to take that a little step further with this particular teaching. Is once you get to a place where you understand what it is that they like, don't get so caught up in what it is that you like. When you present what you want from them, present from the place of what they like. That way you'll have a higher probability of them buying into the event or thing that they want.
That's the art of negotiation. It's the art of negotiation, is getting on the other side of the table and asking questions with the understanding of what is a win-win, meaning what does this other person need from this exchange in order to feel like they are fulfilled, valued, and it's not a loss to them. Same thing. It's the art of, it's consideration. But one of the things that came up while you were talking was, because I have been through this cycle, and as you've seen the evolution, right? But the paradigm shift to being a student of the other person requires you to get over the loss of, or the fear of loss of abandonment or whatever. Like if you're afraid, you're holding on and you're trying to control the other person. You have to let go in order to be able to be a student of somebody else. And you also have to be let go of the need for validation, because I can't compassionately look at it from your perspective if I'm needing to work my validation into the conversation. I have to step away and say, well, let me just look at this person and who are they? Not what do I need from them, but who are they? Which is a huge paradigm shift. And it comes from being able to take a risk, right? Because honestly, when we haven't yet mastered ourselves, everything feels like a risk.
Well, when you have your agenda in mind, which is why you have to have balance. When you have your agenda in mind, you don't even hear the opportunities that were presented that you could have utilized to help them to see why they would like what it is that you're bringing up. Because you're so caught up on trying to prove your point or to validate your thought process.
Well, you think they should. And you have to give it a reason why you think they should, but you just believe and think they should. So of course they should, and they're like, I don't know where the assumptions come from. Like, what's the backstory? Where's the what? Give me some stuff.
And that's why when you present, you're presenting from what it is that you like, because you're sharing it. You're sharing why clearly they should, because you're going based off of why it is.
So you thought before you even started opening your mouth. You already worked it out.
Exactly. And the crazy thing about it is, even with this, on the flip side of it, I've presented stuff that I wanted to do. And she, after listening enough to find out that she just that's not something that she was interested in. After she shared why she didn't like it, I was like, you know what? I didn't want to do that either. Like, I adopted her thought process. Like, wow, I'm glad you helped me dodge a serious bullet. Yeah, but it's because I was receptive to her why. I shared why I thought she would like it, but then when it got to the grand scheme of things,
you just made a point that's very powerful. You used the word receptive, and you were saying that we love the way we want to be loved. And how many of us are truly receptive?
When you're so caught up in the way that I love is, you're never receptive. There's never going to be a dance when it comes to this whole love thing, because you're trying to force the way that you love on another person. And that's just not how they're going to be receptive. That's why the book that I'm most receptive to from a teaching standpoint is the 5 love languages. And that's because it for one, it takes you away from male and female. That in itself prevents you from being an effective communicator because you're automatically assuming that that person, because of their gender, is going to respond to you accordingly. But the flaw in the 5 love languages is that instead of you taking it from 2 compartmentalizing people into 2 categories, you've just separated and made it 5. And you have people assuming that if, I found out that she's a person needs affirmation, so I'm just gonna just say stuff to her all the time. Whereas even in your evolution, Michelle, you don't even realize it, but you're moving so far away from affirmation. You say I need affirmation, but even in your actions, you're slowly moving away from that because you're really finding and going to a place where you actually just love yourself. Whereas a lot of people, they just lean towards those things.
That's pretty cool.
And it's assumptive that, oh, you know what? I am a toucher. I do like touch, when in actuality, there's going to be times where you're like, man, get off me. I just don't feel that today. And now you got somebody that's just trying to touch you because they learned your love language.
Right? Because it's not absolute. What it allows,
exactly.
What we have to allow for is that we feel different ways, different days.
Yeah, exactly. You're right, Susie. His books talks about personalities. The only thing about that is we have so many different personalities. It's definitely not just 5. And when you
and hybrids, they're just a mixture.
and when you teach from a place that is not #9, and what I mean by #9 is truth, meaning it's law. There's no exceptions to a rule. That's a very dangerous place to teach and learn from. So I always teach from individuality because that's truth. There's no exception to that rule. You are an individual.
It's liberating to think of people as individuals. You know why? Because you don't bring any judgment to the experience. If you let them be an individual, it's truly an adventure in discovering what this particular person is bringing to the table.
Which means you are truly a student of that particular person. You're not coming with all of these biases and thought processes that are assumptive that prevents you from learning. Because the things that we think we know, guess what we don't do? We don't talk about them because we are already in our minds thinking we know this about them, which prevents you from effectively communicating, or because you're responding according to what you think you know, and you're not even asking because you think you know. So that in itself has killed probably 60% of actual engaging or intimate conversation because you've concluded something about this person, which makes it even worse because you're concluding it based off of terrible relationships because you wouldn't have even gotten to that person had it not been to the bad relationships you were in the first place. So you're taking information from trash relationships to draw conclusions about a person that you're hoping is going to be successful about. How's that going to work out for you?
Create another trash relationship.
So if you do not come at a person from an individual standpoint, you don't know that individual. You don't. And you miss out on opportunities.
And it's the self-love person, a self-aware person that can let the unfolding of that flower of a person happen without trying to make it happen a certain way. Like, how can I explain? Having to be patient, right? So for me, my relationship has been a long time growing, but having to be patient, it's like watching a flower grow. You know what it's gonna look like. You saw the package; it was in there. You know what it's supposed to look like, but you can't make it grow fast. You can't. You can stare at it all day and it's not gonna grow. You have to watch and wait and let it do its thing before you can enjoy it.
But don't miss out on the part that you have to cultivate it in order for you.
You don't like. There's a picture, but it might not look exactly like the picture, and that's fine.
Oh yeah, well certainly. Which is why, go back to our show. Man, we're on show 24. Do you realize that?
We gotta have a party at 25. We gotta do something. It's a milestone. 25.
Show 24. So I don't know what show it was, but it's very dangerous to have expectations of anyone outside of yourself. And when you do that, you cause so much conflict, trouble, issues, and a lot of pushback because you're responding based off of an assumption. This is why we go into arguments, because in our minds we said, I'm gonna say this, then he or she's gonna say that, and when they don't say that, it's like, what? Like, no, you are supposed to go into it with, this is my truth, this is how I feel, or this is how I took whatever it is that you did, and for one, is that what you expect, what you intended on doing? Is that how you intended for me to receive it, and then go from there? But to have expectations of what the dialogue is going to be is you're setting yourself up for frustration and failure. Or Lisa says, selfish love is conditional love. Selfless love is unconditional.
Sounds like a student of no love, don't it?
Very, very true statement. She definitely is. It says, Derek Wiggins says, our society believes the word no is a form of rejection, but it's really the first step to correction. We can't get past the no part. I agree with you to a certain extent, until you put correction in there, because correction implies that their no is wrong, and it may not very well be no. Be wrong. So I agree with you. No is definitely the first step to, I think, getting better understanding, but I wouldn't say correction, because that implies that your way in the presentation point was the right way, and now you're trying to correct them, which is not a conversation. It's more of, I'm trying to influence your thought process and your views, as opposed to just learning.
Correction may be strong, but adjustment is better, right? So no on either side of the equation. I
don't even like adjustment. I prefer clarity. Because now we understand each other.
My assumption was off, and I made my statement to you with an assumption that you said, no, that's not what I meant. Then you are actually pushing me to change my approach.
Well, if he said,
open my mind a little bit.
No, well, I think we're talking about two different things. Like, we're on the same page, but we're using totally different books. Because if he has stated rejection, he's implying that you've requested something and you got to know. So it's not saying that I took something a certain way. So is that the way that you meant for me to take it? And they say no. It's, I'm requesting something of you and you said no. And so if he says rejection, that means you're requesting something and you were rejected. And that is an opportune moment to find out why you were rejected and if you were really rejected. He and I actually were having a conversation. Yeah, several. I just don't look at things the way that, again, because I'm looking at it from a loving space. I had a boss of mine a while ago say that she was disappointed in me. And I thanked her for the compliment. And she's like, what? What do you mean? Like, in her mind, she had this back and forth. But I thanked her. I said, so where do we go from now? I thank you. And she's like, well, what do you mean? Thank you for the compliment. Say, in order for you to be disappointed in me, that means you had an expectation of me that I fell short of. The only way that you would have expectation of me is because I've done something in the past that caused you to have a high expectation of me. That is a compliment. You might not have meant for it to be a compliment, but the fact that I disappointed you means that you had high expectations of me. That, my friend, is a compliment. But that's because I don't look at things from a malicious. I look at it from
definitely not malicious. Definitely not malicious.
Now, the whole point of the meeting was correction and growth, but she wanted me to be hurt or upset or agitated from her statement to start it off for the growth. First of all, you don't inspire anyone to change if you're trying to attack them. So I did have to correct her on, like, that's a very dangerous thing that you've done. And with the wrong person, you could actually damage somebody and not get the actual response or inspiring response that you could have. Because to tear someone down or to try to make them feel guilty or bad about something that they've done is not going to help them to better themselves. So clearly this is a meeting about correction. I'm all for correction, but I didn't take it the way that you intended it for me to take it, because that's just not how my heart operates. I see the opportunity in even your correction, and which allows for me to move and grow from this particular point, whereby another person probably would have shut down right at the beginning of you disappointed in me, and now they don't hear anything because they're so caught up in their feelings and how they feel. You said great replacement word, guided opportunity instead of correction. See, this is why he and I can have conversations, because like listen, I'm not denying your words or whatever. I just words are first of all, words mean everything to me. Which is why I absolutely love Maya Angelou. I'm gonna just put that right there and move forward. But I love Maya Angelou because the way she used words, and people, I don't think people realize how powerful words are. So, first of all, words are used intentionally, even if you don't realize how intentional that they are. So to use them and you have meaning behind it, and they're guiding the way that you live, think, and view people. So you definitely should pay attention to words. And if you don't have a lot of them, I can guarantee you that you are a frustrated individual, because to not be able to communicate your thoughts is frustrating, which is why most violent persons that are in prison systems cannot read. And I can only imagine why. And it's because they're frustrating and they can't articulate their thoughts and views and be understood. But that's a whole nother conversation, but it's truth. So words are so important. So to say, which again, I'm so appreciative of you being receptive to that, Thomas Derek Wiggins. Correction, again, it implies that that person was wrong, and you're never going to get to a place where you two can understand each other if you're trying to correct them because you assume that they're wrong. I personally don't usually use words like right or wrong. If I do, it's not in a manner that I'm trying to correct you. It's in a manner that I think that might be hurtful to another person, and I want you to see it, and then we'll grow or go from a place from how you see it, because I can assure you everyone in their actions is right. And what I mean by that is not necessarily right from right and wrong. I mean that in the sense of their thought process and their motive, they feel it's right. I'm getting back at him because he hurt my cousin. I'm right in what I'm doing. It might be wrong in that action, in the sense that it's just going to create a cycle. But in that moment, even in violence or maliciousness, it's from a right standpoint of that person. And until you get to that person's right place, you can't get them to your considered right place, because you don't even have something to stand on that says that I'm compassionate and I understand and feel where you're coming from. You understand what I'm saying? I just went on a rant that probably has nothing to do with this show. But
you brought it back. You brought it back because you were saying that you got to get to that person's right place in order to get to the right place, in order for you to get them to do what you want them to do or get them to collaborate with you. You do have to get to that right.
And you can't do that if you are not selfless. You cannot do that if you're not trying to learn or at least appreciate where they're coming from. Because I cannot take you out of a place until I go to where you are. So if I'm so focused on trying to get you where I'm at, I never find out where you are to get you there. If you go to a GPS back in the day, you had to type in where you were before you can get to where you were going. So if you don't even know where they're at, you can't even get them where you are. And if you don't ask them the right questions, or at least probe enough to find out how they feel or why they feel the way that they feel, you can't even make a connection that will allow for them to even consider where you're trying to take them. Go ahead, Michelle.
I wanted to ask you, piggybacking on your statement about becoming a student of the other person, and then that phrase, get people to do the things that you want to do things with you, right? So yes. If I'm a student of the person, which is going to give me information. If I'm a student of them, that's giving me information. How does that information play into getting the ask process, or the wooing, or the communication process? So what do I do if I'm a student of a person? I'm getting information of how they like things, how they are, how they want to be or do or see. How does that impact my process of getting to asking them to do something?
Okay. All right. So with that information, that valuable information that you have, now when you bring your presentation to the table, you are presenting in a manner that aligns with what they like, even if it has absolutely nothing to do with what you like. Just like we stated earlier, when they are responding to you, you should definitely know yourself enough to say, hey, I don't like that. I appreciate you doing this or whatever, but please don't, for one, don't touch me like that, or don't whatever it is that you don't like, make the note or share with them, and but also share why you don't like it. Because for one, again, these people are responding to you out of habit and out of a thought process that what they're doing is from a loving place, especially if they've chosen you. So they're trying to do stuff that is loving towards you, if you've chosen the right person. So they're doing it in a reflex to show you that they love you. So you need to take note of that to know that that's technically what they want you to do with them. Now, when you come do with them. So when you come at them after you have learned without a shadow of a doubt that this is what that person knows, and that's as simple as, oh, I noticed you did this. Do you like that? And they're affirming or sharing that that's what they like. When you present this this information, you present it and say, hey, I really think, or I would like for us to do this, and I think you would enjoy it because it has this, this, and this, and this. And then shut up. Sit back and listen to what their response is. But typically what we do is, oh, I think we should go to such and such, because then you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, which in translation is, because this, I like doing this, I like doing this, I like doing this. And they're like, I hate all of that mess you just asked me to do. So why in the world would I go there? So I'll give you an example. I absolutely hate the outdoors. I'm just not an outdoors type person. I don't like it. But there's certain things outdoors that I like. Yeah. So and interestingly enough, yearly I do camping trips with young men, and for 4 to 5 days out of a week, in mountains with bears and all kinds of stuff. Now I don't like it for my own personal reason. For one, I don't like heat. Two, I don't like mosquito bites. I don't like sweating, which comes with the heat. And I have sensitive skin. So, and I'm allergic to sunscreen. So if I put on sunscreen, I'm itching. But at the same time, if I'm in the sun too long, I get sun poison quickly for some strange reason. So these are reasons for me not to want to be in the outdoor. But if you say, hey, I know it's going to be hot this weekend, but I was thinking we go to Busch Gardens because I know you like the roller coasters, the actual the drumstick every year you go. They got the drumstick or whatever. But in actuality, you want to go because of the events, the festivities, the swings or whatever. You don't present to me swings, the events, and all that stuff. You think the swings and the events and all that stuff, but you present to me the actual the drumstick, the roller coasters or whatever. You present to me what it is that I like, and that is going to get my buy-in. But you know, you really want such and such from this. So that's selflessly being selfish. I presented something in a manner that I want to, or I like it, and I've gotten buy-in because I shared what they would like about the experience. But you cannot do that to a person if you're selfish, because you have nothing of value. That's
information. You haven't done the work to understand what they like. And I don't mean, and so this is different from manipulation, because manipulation tends to use emotional guilt or blackmail or, again, just contorting someone emotionally to want what you want. But this is coming from, I know what I like. I like the swings, and they like the roller coaster. So we'll be in to get us in the same place. I'm going to tell you about the part that you like, the roller coaster, and I want the swings. And so we're just going to be in the same place together. And I will take my turn and do what I like, and you do yours, and we'll have a common story. But that's not coming from you should. That's coming from, hey, we can do something together and enjoy each other and do a little bit of both.
Exactly. Let's see what Lisa wrote. Lisa said, you may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. Maya Angelou. Yes. Yes. Anything like Maya Angelou, please feed it to me. Feed it. I love Maya Angelou. You know what? my wife, I don't think she realized she did this to me, but to this day, I don't even think she would admit this. But it was probably about a year or two ago. She had been indirectly trying to get me to buy my son a bigger bed. And I'm like, yo, he hasn't outgrown the bed that we got him. It's a nice Mickey Mouse, whatever bed. And he hasn't outgrown it. I don't see the need for a bed. So out of nowhere, my wife tells me, well, I have a friend and her sisters and them, they live with them and the kids are sleeping on the floor. She has very, very young babies and they're sleeping on the floor. Now, what is my motivation? To help people. I can't have any babies sleeping on the floor or whatever. So I'm like, well, those kids, I'm the one jumping in. Those kids can't be sleeping in that bed. They need the bed or whatever. We can have we'll just go buy Ezra a new bunk bed and we're going to give them we'll give them the actual Mickey Mouse bed and everything will be fine. So that weekend, like clockwork, bought my son a new bunk bed. He's all excited. She's clearly happy buying all of these.
You feel good because you have helped the family in need.
Decorate and set up his room and everything like that. Ask me, when did we ship that other bed to the other people? Never heard anything about it. About a month or something went by. Ended up throwing it away. And I'm like, yo, my wife wanted me to buy a bed. And she knew just asking me to buy a bed didn't make sense to me. If it doesn't make sense to me, I'm not making no moves. Not going to happen. That doesn't make sense. Why are we about to spend money on this big behind bed or whatever just to appease your thought process? Like, he's not a freaking plant. He can still grow. Like, my mom used to say the same, like, he's not growing because of your bed, the bed. It's like, my son is not a daggone plant. Like, he doesn't need a bigger environment for him for him to daggone grow. Like, don't come at me with that. This is all the stuff that my mom and them are trying to get me to do because they want me to get him a bigger bed. So those things didn't work. But the other kid,
but the compassion for somebody in need is your trigger.
Tapped into what does my man like? What does he love or whatever? And she presented her case, and she got what she wanted. With my son, she felt needed, and everybody was happy. It says, "Hi, Michelle. I see you. I am watching." That is Shannon Bird. So I don't know who Shannon Bird is, but Shannon Bird says, "Hi, Michelle. I see you." Your cousin. So hey, Shannon. Thomas said, "Sleep on the floor was a good living." Try sleeping on cold pavement. See, actually, Thomas, what you're saying is true, which is why I'm so compassionate for people that have to. I've had to sleep on the floor, and I'm like, I refuse.
Right back.
Yeah, and I'm like, I refuse to have someone have to do that. So if I can contribute to someone preventing themselves from having to go through a life that I had to go through, I definitely would do it. But that's a prime example of when you present in a manner that they would be receptive to or they would like, as opposed to what it is that you're thinking about. Because typically what you like about what it is that you like, they don't like it. I'm telling you, there's certain things that my wife and we like together, but we don't like it for the same reasons. I remember, this is also in my book. It's not that they don't love you. Y'all don't love alike. First of all, y'all know I don't like TV. I don't watch TV. But, which I will do a show about this sooner than later. It will behoove you to be educated on your partner's passions. So,
hold on.
My wife, go ahead.
Could you repeat that, please?
It would behoove you to be educated about your partner's passions.
Pause. That does not mean just be aware.
No, that definitely doesn't. Educated
and
aware are two totally different things.
Yeah.
So when I say educated, and I'm about to elaborate on what that means, you should be able to articulate even why you don't like something. It should be from an educated standpoint, which means you would have had to invest your time in it and getting knowledge of it so that you can adequately articulate why in the world you don't like it or why it's dumb to you. So, and when me and my wife first got married, I noticed that one of her passions at that time was General Hospital. So first of all, at that time, I am this manly man. Men don't do that, and I got caught up in
That's
that
not
whole
true. That is
gender
not
thing.
true.
Oh, trust me, I know. Again,
That
this
is
was
not
a learning. The whole book was a learning process, which is why I can now teach and help people that are struggling. So at that time, I'm clearly a manly man. Men don't watch no daggone soap operas, and I'm not sitting there watching that. But I noticed that my wife was always on the internet researching. She was like a fan club on General Hospital. She watched General Hospital.
Guilty.
And she was always, when she was on the phone with her mom, they were talking about General Hospital. So General Hospital has my wife's attention. That is something that she's passionate about. So what I did was I decided to sit down and watch General Hospital with her. What happened at that time was I fell in love with General Hospital. And from that, we ended up having...
Just for a second.
Okay.
I've known you a long time. I did not know, because you know that is my passion.
Because I don't watch General Hospital.
Offline. We need to talk offline.
We don't. We won't have anything to talk. Matter of fact, we would have something to talk about, because I guarantee in my 15 years of not watching TV, I can pick up exactly where they left off at 15 years ago, because that's how stories work. So we might have a lot to talk about. So I say all that to say, what happened is because I got educated on what it is that my wife was passionate about, I was able to articulate how dumb stories were to me. But we also had inside jokes. We had different conversations and talks, because we sat time for that hour segment daily to watch, and we talked about how dumb Alcazar was, or how crazy Jason
I know exactly where you are. I know.
So we talked about how other people came to life and all these moms. So, but what it did was it created a bond, and it was also something that her and I was able to share that she was passionate about. I didn't grow passionate about it, but I did grow passionate about our conversations and discussions after the actual show. And I was able to articulate how stupid it was, but in a loving and funny manner that caused us to be bonding. Even though I'm talking bad or trash about her passion, it was from an educated standpoint, because she saw me experiencing her passion with her. So I say all that to say this. If you're not passionate about her, typically when people cheat, it's with people that are passionate about what you're passionate about. So, hate to put that bug in there, but it's just the reality or the truth behind what it is that's going on. If people are cheating, they're usually at a place where they share the same passion or the same conflict, whether it be at work, church, whatever. They have a shared common ground. So it will behoove you to be educated about your mate's passion, because it is their passion that will keep them interested in you, as well as you being interested in them, which in turn, again, will allow for you to have information that can help you to get the things that you want, because you can present that in the presentation of your request. Go ahead, Michelle. I see you thinking.
I am thinking about another way to slice it, getting them to do the things you want to do together. If both of you take the student perspective, right, to your story, where you spent some quality time with her to watch it, to be able to talk about it. Either you researched it, and you that time spent on a common idea or conversation or whatever, it was quality time. And most of us, when we want to spend time with our mate, it's because it's not just be in the same room with them. We don't just want to be around them. When we say be with them, we want to do something that we are both doing together, both getting something out of. So if we both take the student role and invest in doing something that the other person likes, would that not result in more quality time and more building blocks for that core strong relationship, because we have things in common?
All right, so check it. I'm about to give you a little insight on the whole process of no love, and I give it indirectly. So when everything that I teach, it's always about what you should work on. But at the same token, if you're working on it, you are inspiring someone to work on it the same way that you're doing, because you have now become the example or the mirror. So now what happens is, or what happened in that regard was, my wife, in turn, she looked into what it is that I liked. So she started, we literally had carved out time to watch what each other liked. So because I initiated that, she grew interested in what it is that I would, and that wasn't even manipulative. She just wanted to, just like, well, what are you watching now?
Enjoy it. You
exactly.
enjoy the experience because you like each other.
At that time, it was Ghost Hunters. So her and I ended up liking Ghost Hunters. So that was, I remember it like it was yesterday. So those were the things that we were interested in, and we started watching, and it was carved out time to where we even do that now. We literally have carved out time to, I do that with my children. I do that with my wife. We have carved out time to do or enjoy in things that we all like, and that's their time. That is how I spend time with that person, and that's our personal quality time together. But it causes them to be interested in research what it is that you like. So I say all that to say, when you're doing this, you're indirectly teaching them how to do it to you. That's all that's happening. And for lack of a better term, it makes for a wonderful bedroom experience, because now you two have become students of one another, and you're both trying to appease each other. Don't get mad, Michelle. So because when you become a student, it moves over to all facets of the actual relationship. So when you are in the
it becomes who you are, because that's when it's not manipulative. When it's
exactly
just a part of who you are, it's not manipulation.
Now, Thomas said, our problem, man, we don't enjoy and cherish the hard times and good times equally. If you are passionate enough to yell at me when you're angry, have that equal passion when you love me. We need to replace expectations with theory. When you get to a place where you, first of all, that's a hashtag, not a statement. Second of all, it aligns with what I was talking about yesterday. And I promise you, the liberty and that comes with a thought process like that, Thomas, is that you no longer are a slave to the response, and it actually gets to a place where it's all love and it's not hard times. Because you don't, like I said, when I was brought into that room, 100%. that was meant to be a hard time. But I don't see things as hard time as much as I see them as opportunities. So when you get to that place, it drops so many shackles off of you. And I remember talking to you probably about 2 or 3 years ago, Michelle, and I said, I was reflecting on this year that has passed. And in my reflection, I noticed that it was the exact same year as the previous year, but it was probably the best year, and it was way better than last year. And the only thing that had shifted was my perspective and how I saw it. And so when you get to a place, Thomas, where you're looking at, or your expectations have shifted from expectations to theory. And when I say theory, it's okay, so I'm sharing this information just to share. Not so that I can get you to buy in on my statement. That literally liberates you to have a conversation as opposed to force an argument, and it makes for you to better understand a person. So if you can get to that place, which is all I'm trying to do indirectly through all of these podcasts, to get to a place where we don't even realize that we're just doing things just by reflex, and we just start to see the actual responses or the shift in our lives, even though nothing has necessarily shifted outside of our thought processes and our perspective. It's because we know love. And when you know and understand love, it allows for you to experience it in no matter what the situation, circumstance, or environment that you're in. Go ahead, Michelle.
Love is pervasive. Love that is not containable, and it's natural, it's shareable, it's contagious, it's powerful. And like you said, when you get to the point where love in the little things turns into love in the bigger things, and turns into love in bigger things, you start to see the fruit of it. And one of the fruits is that bad times aren't really bad times. It's an opportunity to show love in a different way, or receive love in a different way, or even just unpack how love is even present in this situation, which is always a blessing. So I think that one of the things that I feel like is a benefit, and even like from our relationship, just talking all the time about coming from a place of love, it makes the glass permanently half full, 100%. 100% glass half full. You always assume good intent. But even when you have to address malice, it's still coming from, I'm gonna make sure malice doesn't infiltrate me. I cannot control you, but I can make sure that this malice or whatever I'm receiving doesn't permeate and come inside me, and I can still come to you from a loving place. And that is a very powerful place to be. This selflessness is a work that has fruit that is just evergreen.
Yeah.
It's fruit that's evergreen. It's constantly just giving back to you. The work is so
funny.
worth it.
It was funny because when I brought the topic to my wife's attention and I explained like what it meant, she looked at me and she was like, I'm gonna start thinking about when you present stuff to me. But I literally could see her thinking about all the things that I might have gotten her to do that she was not in her mind wanting to do, but in the end it ended up being a great experience. But I just was actually having a conversation that aligns with what you said and what Thomas alluded to with this lovely woman. Probably about 2 days ago, we've been talking deep, heavy conversations for the last probably about 6 months, and she was laughing at like watching this show, listening, and then our conversations and how I respond to people. And she laughed at a statement. And I was like, well, what's so funny? She said, it's just so funny that the things that you say now, I remember when I first heard you say it, and I used to think how callous or cold you were. But now I laugh because I know where it's coming from and how loving it all sounds. And that's what love does. It shifts how something that could be received from a harsh way, especially because if you received it from a harsh person, if you receive the same touch from a harsh person, from a loving person, it seems like the same touch. But the core of where it's coming from, once you are in that type of environment and saturated with love, that same touch can be so loving.
Healing.
And healing, exactly. That touch of death could become.
Can I tell you this one thing? Like,
yeah, go ahead.
For me, for having having to deal with abandonment issues has always made my relationships seem to need more. And this is probably where you're saying a lot of growth. It used to seem to have needed more attention because I had fear of abandonment issues. Like you said, opposites attract. The opposite personality to me needs freedom. They don't want to be smothered and controlled and checked. Like, they need freedom, but that doesn't mean they don't love you, and it doesn't mean you're not 100% number one. It just means I need freedom. And so for me to be in a current situation where I'm able to accept freedom without the fear of abandonment, to me is where love has switched to receptive. This is how this person is. It's not, I'm not afraid I'm going to lose them because they need freedom.
Yeah. And that's because you've gotten to a place where love is no longer internal, it's external. So you can see how that person can love you, though they don't love you the way that you would prefer to be loved. That again, it's so liberating and so powerful, and people don't realize how powerful love is. I'm gonna give you this example, and then we're gonna conclude as to how powerful love is. So I get up 3 days ago, and I get up to drive my daughter to her bus stop. Drive my daughter to the bus stop. There's wires all in my car. Somebody's broken into my car and snatched my radio. So I look in the car. I said, somebody stole my radio. My daughter was like, oh my gosh, somebody stole your radio? Yeah, someone, you can see the wires. Someone stole the radio. She's like, oh my gosh. So I said, put your stuff in the in the car. It's time to take you to the to school. Went, sat down, pushed the wires in the little box or whatever. Drove my daughter to the bus stop, and she's looking at me like,
why are you not
what,
upset?
like what is
Yeah.
you're not upset, you're not mad or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's a radio. First of all, if someone stole my radio, that's someone that I really need to pray for. They have a serious life issue going on right now. And I don't know what that radio helped them. I pray that it did, but I'm more concerned about what will make a person steal a radio than the fact that I lost the radio. And my daughter looking like, who is my father? Like, who is this or whatever? But it didn't shift my day, my thought process, or my focus. And I went and I had a great day. So much so when I came back home, it was like 8:30 and my wife came and tapped me. She said, your radio got stolen? I said, oh, shoot, my radio did get stolen. She said, you didn't call the cops? I said, call the cops and tell them what? That I don't know who stole my radio? Like, what's the point of doing all that? I said, I'm just glad that I keep my doors unlocked so that my windows don't have to be busted and I don't have to place a window. But and my wife looked at me like, what in the world? Like, who, again, like my daughter, who did I marry? But stuff like that does not influence me. It does not. I am a thermostat. I am not a thermometer. Things in this life, my experiences do not determine or dictate my temperature. I do that. And the core of me has allowed.
It is a choice you make over and over and over again. You choose to be.
The core for me, the core of me made me feel bad for the person that stole from me, not feel bad for myself. I'm more concerned about the environment or the situation that causes this person to have to or feel to want to steal. I'm still riding with no radio in my car. I made it look neat. And I keep on moving with my life. Like, I'm just glad that my window wasn't broken. But I say all that to say, first of all, you have to know and understand and love yourself. That will allow for you to do the same for others and be receptive to how they love you or love themselves, which in turn will allow for you to be a student to them and reciprocate what it is that they prefer from a loving standpoint, even though it does not align with what you would prefer them to do for yourself, which in turn will allow for you to have a wonderful relationship because now you have provided them with what they feel love is, and they are able and receptive to provide you with what you feel love is, which I can assure you will allow for them to consider marrying you. Because a lot of people get from the dating phase to the marriage, to the relationship phase, but because they can't grasp stuff like this, nobody wants to marry them because they're so focused on trying to love them the way that they want to be loved. When they're looking, their opposite is looking for them to be loved the way that they want to be loved. And that's their opposite. So any concluding thoughts, Michelle, before we wrap this up?
My only caveat or encouragement is trust the process. To trust that you build in yourself to stick it out will be able to be extended to the other person because you project what you know about yourself. So when you learn how to trust yourself, it'll be easier to trust somebody else and go ahead and take the risk to be a student of who they are. And you won't lose anything. You will have everything to gain because love is everything.
Everything. And my concluding thoughts is a selfish person can't master this because they're too busy being selfish. But a selfless person has great opportunity with this to gain many opportunities to share in the things that they want with their partner, because if you stop getting so caught up in what you like and consider what it is that they like because you are selfless, it allows for you to present to them what it is that they like when you're wanting to do what it is that you like, so that they'll be more receptive to doing it. It won't work all the time. Sometimes you're actually, because you're so receptive to hearing them, will be influenced out of the stuff that you thought you were going to like. But this will empower you to present in a manner that will make them receptive. And as usual, I appreciate your minds and time. You all don't have to be here, but you choose to be here, which makes me feel loved and allows for me to assist in sharing love. And with that being said, till we meet again, I love y'all. Be safe. Peace.